Hey everyone, Dan here. We are after market close on Wednesday, July 21st. We're going to take our daily look at CLOV. Before we get into it, if you enjoy these videos, please hit the like and subscribe button. It helps a lot. And also keep in mind that these are my own thoughts, opinions, ideas. These are not intended to be, nor should you take them as trading or investment advice in any way, shape, or form. Do your own due diligence, come to your own conclusions, and trade based on that. All right, so CLOV had a pretty swanky day today, up over 6%, and now in the aftermarket, getting itself into the +4 range. So we add those together. We could be entering the pre-market tomorrow, following basically a +10% uptick or so, but that would be a pretty nice change. We see in the chart from yesterday, we have a channel that I was tracking moving up here. I said at that time it was a very, very nascent channel, and so be careful with it. It blew the lid off of it through the trading day today. Now we do see a lot of times when something goes, especially when it goes out the top of the channel, it coming back down to sort of retest the upper bound of the channel that it's left. I don't know that that'll happen in this case, but it's something to watch just because it does commonly happen. But, this being such a young channel only lasted, 2.5 days or so. So it could be just a whole lot of nothing, but something to look for if we do see it come down basically in the high 8s and sort of, I'd want to see it kind of leave this and stay above it now, or at least, have this 861 support zone that we had already plotted, which came in handy today, as you saw it go through that zone in the afternoon and then test it and give itself a nice ping right off of it. Now, it's stretching the upper bounds of this area that we had charted as well. Let me scoot this over. These three zones here are areas of stickiness that I said, we're likely to see as we make this potential, if we make this run from 861 to 1325. Obviously, that is a huge percentage gain. That 1325 is also one of my price targets if you look at my CLOV price targets video. But what I said was, if we do make that move on the way there, we'll probably see stickiness at the dollar points on, at the $9, $10, and $11 range, specifically in those box areas, based on the previous supply and demand zones and the buying and selling activity that we saw in those areas. So still think that that's the case, and it's just approaching the first one now, so be kind of interesting to see what happens there. Now, this craziness in the after hours, the moments, this came out, I think it's more than 15 minutes ago at this point, but right around 4:30 today, so about a half an hour ago, a Form 4 filing late Tuesday showed the company's COO acquired 220,820 shares. The stock is also a top stock in Reddit's Wall Street Bets community, maybe getting push from retail traders. I'm pretty confident it's getting a push from retail traders. But you see, I don't know what all this is. They throw a chart in there. Surprising. But yeah, so insiders buying up big chunks of shares. Obviously, that is a lot of shares. Obviously, that's met on the retail trader side of things as a strong bullish sentiment and really increases folks, I guess, want to jump in and follow the lead of the insiders. Obviously, we see the same thing to the downside when folks are selling off from the inside, right? This is, to me, has all of the earmarks of, the Wall Street Bets crowd jumping in, buying up relatively short-dated call options. These expire a week from Friday, so next Friday. $8 strikes. So I don't know when they acquired these. It looks like it was already above 8. So these were about, in the money, at the money call options. But the volume, 1109 versus an open interest of 2649. So almost half of the existing open interest was opened up just in trade. Like, this isn't even a sweep. This isn't even like a large scale options order. Another reason why I'm pretty sure this is coming from Wall Street Bets. This is just retail traders coming in and buying up a bunch of call options that expire relatively soon, and now they are well into the money, especially with this after hours activity. So some folks could be sitting on some pretty solid gains there. Now, I want to address a couple of things before we get too deep into the video. One, I'm traveling tomorrow, which is Thursday, Friday, and Monday. I do intend to still put out daily CLOV videos. If something goes amiss though, and there's issues with the space or the sound or what have you, the Wi-Fi sucks and it can't handle uploading a video, I will put a post on YouTube. I have that function where I can create a video, or I can create a post. So you should still see it in your feed, and I'll sort of do some screenshots and then just textually add in my take on the day and what I'm looking at, and potential interesting aspects that I see. So something would still go out on those days, even if it's not a video. But again, I have every intention of it being a video. So look for that. But in case something seems amiss, look for the post. And then on the other thing that I wanted to mention was I've seen some comments, and this comes up quite a bit, when folks feel that a stock or a ticker is very, very manipulated, like we see here, dark pool activity, high short interest, that sort of thing. Is the charting and the TA, is it still even valid? In my opinion, yes. It's a pretty subjective thing. I can just say experientially from, my previous charting of very manipulated stocks, AMC and GameStop, when those things were in sort of the throes, that's sort of, the TA is mostly what I relied on to catch bounce zones on both of those stocks. It's also what led me to, you'd really have to dig through the history of my Twitter, but see me tweeting about, that GameStop would see $300 before it saw $80 again. This was when it was trading in the hundreds, I think, and that proved out to be the case. And I came to those conclusions from the chart. And also with AMC, when it was batting around, you can go back and find videos where I talk for a week or more about it absolutely needing to get support at the 9/11 level, if I'm remembering that correctly, in order for it to have like a jumping off point. Otherwise it was just going to kind of fizzle and fade, and that's exactly what we saw happen. So again, it wasn't because of uncovering any of the manipulation or trying to figure out what was going there that led me to those price points or those decisions. It was the chart. So again, subjective, but in my experience it does still play a strong factor, and you can still glean a lot of good info from the chart, even if a stock is heavily shorted. If there's questionable FTDs, naked shorting happening, phantom shares coming into play, that sort of thing, I still think that there is a relevance to the charting. So that said, let's move on. So let's poke around with a couple of indicators, and then we'll look at some data, and we'll call it a video. All right, so the MACD really doing a lot of work today to shuffle down the bearish momentum to a null point, and the MACD right now is situated under the baseline pretty solidly. Let me see what this looks like on the year. If we can compare some previous areas. Okay, so definitely it's well below the area where it was when it had this bullish crossover, which caused that ridiculous run up, which that also I think was primarily the result of retail interest. So we could be seeing sort of like a replay of that. Now, obviously the bearish momentum has been much stronger than we saw here or even here. It was just more prolonged back here, but this came in more hot and heavy in a brief period of time recently. So it'll be interesting to see sort of what, if this does complete the bullish crossover here on the MACD, and we start to head up over the baseline, how big of a push we get, and sort of if we're able to double dip on the green histogram side of things. Trying to see if there's kind of like an example here where it looked like it was going to cross into bearish territory and it didn't. It re-upped on the green. This is a better one. Yep, came in, looked like it was dying off, and then it said, nope, I have more bullish momentum to thrust into the market. So I'll be curious to see if it has that much momentum or not. The other thing that I talked about in last night's video is the volume. There still is a big need for volume here. Today, it looks like we're clocking in almost 27 million. Yesterday 24, and the day before that just under 20. So really not that big of an uptick for how solid today was from a percentage gain perspective. We'll see if this additional news item and after hours activity drives some interest. Also, what could certainly come into play here is some gamma squeeze effect from the additional options interest, as well as the short squeeze. This could obviously kick off shorts covering large portions or all of their position, because if this thing, especially if it stretches toward that $13 range, I would think that would really put a bunch of those short sellers so upside down in their positions that we could really see a blast off occur at that point. So that would be an interesting thing for me to sort of track, but more to come on that. Obviously, there's more ways for a short squeeze not to happen than for it to effectively happen. They're pretty rare events. The other thing that I'm going to be watching closely is the RSI approaching the midline. It's often a telling moment, as we see here. If we look left where my cursor is, that midline holding or not is typically what leads to the sort of completion of a big impulsive move like we saw here. It struggled around the midline and then clearly established over it, and that's what thrust it up all the way. What was this, RSI in the 90s or something? And then when it came back down, what we would like to see there is for it to hit the midline here, and that was the pullback, and then make another rush up, but it couldn't hold the midline, and therefore we saw it come down nearly into oversold territory. But so that'll be the next telling sign to me at the moment. And then the MAs also will provide some additional resistance points as we head up into these zones if it continues to push. So obviously everything's situated there around, the 8, 9, and 10, or no, it must be 10. Everything is situated very close in the $10 mark. We see in the upper left there, the MA20s at 10.59, 200 at 10.63, and 50 at 10.37. So everything situated just above this blue box that we have here. And by the time it gets up there, it might be sort of right in line with that area. So it could be extra heavy resistance at that point. That said, if it can flip that to supports, that'll be really strong support that could help carry it through this blue box and to that 1325 level. Again, kind of getting pretty far ahead of myself, but these things can compound relatively quickly, especially with a stock that is so heavily shorted as CLOV. So Ortex reporting today 21.27% of the free float being shorted. It's a slight tick down, but definitely nothing compared to how high the interest is. And utilization also remaining very, very high. Slight downtick, but still shares to borrow to short sell being harder and harder to come by as time goes on. So I'm going to be keeping an eye on that for sure, and that could be sort of like our road to a short squeeze. But again, just keep in mind, short squeezes are very hard to effectuate, and there's many, many more ways for them to sort of wiggle their way out of position than it is for them to get cornered and really have to get swept up in a short squeeze. But I'd also keep an eye on the options activity, especially if Wall Street Bets continues to have a heavy hand in this, because buying up huge chunks and increasing the volume and the open interest in a bunch of these contracts, especially if these start to get higher and higher and more out of the money because the price keeps going up, flipping out of the money to in the money. There's a good chance there for a gamma squeeze, and I can talk more about that in the days to come if this continues to move in this direction. All right, well, that'll do it for this video. I appreciate you watching, and I hope your trading week is going well. I'm sure it's feeling a little bit better after today, but let's see what happens. You never know. Obviously, we've seen some solid green days in the past, and we've seen them turn against us in the days following. So don't get too far ahead of yourself, and just still be very, very cautious. There's a lot of factors out there, and there's a lot of things that could go against us, us being folks that are bullish on CLOV. All right, well, I appreciate it, and I wish you the best, and I will see you in the next video.